All right, you have been watching the Brendan Banfield murder trial here on WUSA 9+. Thank you so much for staying with us. We have been reading your comments. We've been hearing from so many of you, and I appreciate that. And I do want to start by saying if you do have questions about anything that's been going on in this trial, you can text 202-895-5599. Now, I would like to introduce the lovely woman sitting here next to me, Janine Driver. She is a body language expert. I know you have a ton of experience. You want to go through your credentials real quick?
Yeah, Katie, I'm excited to be here, even though it's under such sad circumstances. My background's ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I was there 17 and a half years. Wow. My specialty is detecting deception and analytic interviewing and firearms trafficking, which of course this involves like firearm, but not trafficking. And I spilled my career into writing a couple books. You Say More Than You Think, You Can't Lie to Me, and one became a New York Times bestseller, translated in, I think there's like 22 languages now. And I weigh in on cases just like this, often for Court TV and other big media outlets. I'm excited to share my content and analyze what's happening here and separate fact from fiction. Right. And it's not just body language, there's words also, Katie, and you at home. It's called statement analysis. There are certain words that people say that have hidden meaning, and so we'll peel that back. And I'm going to talk about, I already just was watching the au pair, Juliana, a second ago, and we're going to talk about hand gestures. We're going to talk about, even we saw Brendan just now in court. We saw him doing a chin grab pose, which I found that was very interesting. Okay. When we grab our chin, we're about to win. It's a sign that people have a little too much confidence maybe in the moment, or they're faking confidence. So it's going to be interesting to pull back the layers here in the case, and I'm open to answering any questions that people call in for you and take it from there. Yeah, we're looking forward to getting some of those questions. Again, let's put that number up on the screen for you one more time, 202-895-5599. And I appreciate even that quick little glimpse of what we're going to hear from you, Janine. I do want to go back, though. You know, it is day 8 of this trial. Hard to believe. They are trying to wrap things up today. We will see if that happens. We have heard that Brendan Banfield may be taking the stand today, so that is definitely something we're keeping an eye on. But let's take you back to last week, specifically back to the opening statements where we heard both the attorney for the defense and the prosecution lay out what their plan was for this trial. If we're able to, let's take a listen to that.
It's the Commonwealth versus Brendan Banfield. Mr. Banfield is present in the courtroom with his attorney, and the Commonwealth is present.
We're here today because Brendan Banfield, the man seated behind me, killed his wife, Christine Banfield, and another man named Joseph Ryan.
The murder of Christine Banfield by Joe Ryan occurred on February 24th, 2023.
They sneak up the stairs to the bedroom where they hear Joe Ryan and Christine. Brendan enters the bedroom first, shooting Joe in the head, picks up the knife that Joe had brought, and stabs Christine repeatedly in the neck. He directs Juliana to shoot Joe a second time with her gun. Brendan spends the next several minutes manipulating Joe Ryan's body, in the process leaving Christine's blood on Joe's hands and pants.
The arrest of Juliana Peres Magalhães took place in October of 2023. And the whole reason she was arrested was to flip her against my client. You won't hear any dispute as to the relationship between Brendan Banfield and Juliana Peres Magalhães. But there's an awful lot more to look for, ladies and gentlemen.
The blood puts Brendan Banfield standing over Christine, stabbing her in the neck until she died. While Juliana presents us with the narrative, it is the blood evidence that you can rely upon without a doubt.
Digital forensics doesn't lie. People lie. And there are going to be plenty to see.
All right, so those were the opening statements, and you know, a lot has happened, Janine, since then. I'm going to have you talk about more of those moments in just a minute, but I do also, we've heard so much testimony. Some of the biggest testimony we heard was from Juliana Peres Magalhães when she took the stand. We do have some highlights for you, if we could take a look at that, of just some of the highlights of the first and second day of testimony.
I need help. My friend, she just was stuck in the knife now. She's bleeding a lot.
My name is Brendan Banfield. I'm a federal agent. This is my house. There's somebody here. I shot him.
What did you see when you went into the bedroom?
At first glance, I saw a female that was nude. She was covered in blood with a gentleman standing over her with bloody hands.
Who is the shooter? Who shot who?
Brendan, he's an officer.
He first asked, does he have a pulse? He did follow up with, is she breathing? Or is she going to be okay? Was what he said.
What's going on this morning?
Brendan said, no, police dropped the knife, and he was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her. And I don't know, he started stabbing her. I think Brendan shot him.
Initially, we walked outside, allowed the first ambulance to leave, and then Mr. Banfield was taken into a second ambulance.
What, if anything, did you see him do while you were in the hospital room with him?
He washed his hands.
And before he washed his hands, had anyone swabbed his hands to preserve samples of blood that were on his hands?
No, I was trying to be empathetic.
Yes. No, I understand. Was there anybody who told you not to do that?
No, sir.
This case under penalty of law.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or you can have a seat.
What I told the detectives that day, it was the version Brendan had told me. Brendan said he yelled, police officer, and she yelled back at Brendan saying, Brendan, he has a knife. That's when Brendan first shot Joe. He got on top of her, and that's when I first saw him stab her with a knife. And I just start telling him, he's moving, he's behind you, and that's when I fired the shot too.
Did you see him interacting with Joe or Christine after you shot Joe?
Well, he was still stabbing Christine, and he got her blood, a handful of blood, and he starts dripping on Joe's body.
You asking the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to believe that you came out during that time frame because you wanted the truth to be known versus any time the year before that?
Well, the fact that I took a year to accept my plea, it does not mean that I didn't have any intention to tell the truth before. I had a video call with the producer who works with Netflix, and they want to make a movie or documentary about my case, and he explained in terms of compensation. So they were thinking about $10,000, but I want to negotiate. I want more than this.
You were charged with murder because you shot someone. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
And so why would you deserve something because of that?
Not because of that. I didn't say that I deserved something because of what I did.
I didn't hear any details, so feel free to tell me why.
I'm saying for after, when this is over, for me and my family. And again, for everything we've been through.
All right, so those were some of the highlights from the first few days of testimony. We have obviously heard so much testimony since then. Janine Driver here with me, a body language and words expert, and we are going to hear from her in just a moment. I'm sure so many of you want to know exactly what she is thinking as she watched some of those clips, and then we have a ton more clips for her to take a look at. A reminder, if you do have questions for her, you can text 202-895-5599. You see it there on your screen again, 202-895-5599. All right, so I do want to bring in Matthew Torres. He has been in the courtroom all morning long. Matthew, if you can hear us, we know that court started at 10 a.m., but prior to that, there was a conversation between the attorneys and the judge. Can you share with us what you learned came out of that conversation prior?
Yeah, so at 9 o'clock, they were discussing jury instructions. And so at one point, the judge asked John Carroll, the defense attorney, who his witnesses are going to be, and she asked if Brendan Banfield would be taken to stand. He mentioned about 2 to 3 witnesses today, one of them being Brendan Banfield. So according to prosecutor Jenna Sands, as well as other attorneys who were present in that courtroom, that Banfield is expected to be one of the witnesses to take the stand. As far as the exact timing, that part we don't know. Of course, the digital forensics expert that's currently on the stand still needs to be cross-examined. Carroll still has this line of questioning left before they move on to the prosecution side of things as far as that argument. So a really big deal, something that we did not expect. Certainly the reporters who've been covering this, talking amongst ourselves, we were surprised that this was going to happen. But if there is any indication, according to one police source of mine who I spoke to there in the courtroom, it's a pretty big indication as far as how the case for the defense is going if Brendan Banfield has to take the stand.
Yeah, and I'll add, Matthew, I've been talking to one of our legal experts, Frank Salvedo. He's going to be joining us for that 3:15 break that they take, and he is very surprised that Brendan Banfield would be taking this stand. I do want to ask, we've been talking about some of the people that have been in the courtroom, the family members who have been there. Are you seeing the same family members that you saw last week and in the past few days?
Yeah, it's been consistent. Certainly the Brendan Banfield's father and stepmother has been there the whole time, and sitting opposite from them on a different bench is the side of Christine Banfield. Parents, presumably the sister, potentially two other relatives, have been consistently showing up. As far as Joseph Ryan's side, there was a relative, potentially a friend, who showed up fairly consistently last week. This week we have not seen them. There was one man representing Joseph Ryan's side. Yesterday we weren't able to confirm as far as the exact relation, but there is specific victim services coordinator really accompanying each victim side of the family, one for Christine Banfield's and one for Joseph Ryan. So that one male individual was with the second services coordinator that accompanies the victim's side of the family. So really consistent as far as the other side throughout this entire trial. Ever so often we see some of the community members coming in and out. It seems like there have been 2 or 3 who've been consistently showing up at some point during the day.
And Matt, I'm curious to see if we see that room really start to fill up if Brendan does in fact take the stand today. I know yesterday that the judge was saying she really wanted things to get wrapped up today. It doesn't seem like John Carroll is moving that quickly. I know she told him, I want you to be done with your witnesses for the day. Are you getting any sort of sense of if he is trying to move quickly, if this will in fact be a close to evidence today?
According to Jenna Sands, again, the prosecution's attorney there, she says that he is supposed to have 2 witnesses today. So if this person on the stand right now is the first and potentially Banfield is the second, then we should at least get to him, and potentially we can have the defense resting its case today. I haven't been able to speak to John Carroll. Obviously he's occupied and really busy, especially going down the hallways and figuring out his case. But so far, yeah, it seems slowed down a little bit, especially after yesterday. When we had Brendan Miller, the digital forensics investigator for Fairfax County Police, taking the stand, as well as starting that today. If anything, Katie, that's when we really see things slow down. That's when we start seeing jurors kind of slump over their chairs, kind of lean forward, starting to look at us, some of them not really taking as many notes. Certainly when you have exhibits to show, a bunch of numbers, a bunch of timing, and a lot of different digital evidence, for instance, that can be hard to follow. And in a way, you can see, especially last night, jurors kind of losing track, losing steam, shall we say. Even today with Brendan Miller not really capturing the attention of the jurors, I would say. This one with Lidsky, who was on the stand on behalf of the defense, it's been interesting, especially as they detail every moment, every second that's been used as far as the accounts created, the websites that were checked out on these devices from Christine Banfield. It's painstakingly processed to go through each one. There have been moments that have helped, I think, the defense. There have been moments where you can kind of see jurors who are really not following.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew. I know you got to get back in the courtroom and a lot to do there. We will check back in with you and keep an eye out for if and when Brendan does in fact take the stand, if that is today. All right, thank you, Matthew, so much. We do want to go back to Janine Driver, body language expert here with us, also a word expert. Before we get started, if you do have questions for her, you can text 202-895-5599. Now, I do want to begin with Brendan Banfield. You know, we may see him take the stand today, but I'd like, if we can, to play some video of him up on the screen. And this is going to be video of him crying, or seemingly crying, as the audio of one of the body cameras is played. And it's really the moments where he's finding out that his wife is no longer alive, and then praying with the chaplain. So if we can take a look, I'd love to hear your thoughts watching this.
Okay, as we watch this footage, I want you to notice the forehead. So the forehead is right in front of the brain. The forehead is a map to how someone is really feeling. With authentic sadness, we see the inner eyebrows pulled together and up. Okay. So when people are faking sadness, which is what I think is happening here, we see a little distress here in the eyebrows, just a little bit. But when we're faking it, you'll often see people do this. By the way, we have an ears, nose, and throat doctor for a reason, Katie, and you at home. They're all connected. So fake crying, we saw this in the same exact courtroom, by the way, a couple years ago with Johnny Depp's wife, Amber Heard. I was in the courtroom when Amber Heard was fake crying, very similar. So what you'll see with fake crying is the head will go down. People will wipe away fake tears. There's nothing even falling down on his face here. Authentic sadness, the eyebrows pulled together and up, and there's a deep swallow. So we're not seeing that deep swallowing happening right here. We're not seeing the distress in the forehead that would be equivalent to authentic sadness. So let's see here.
It's okay.
Also with sadness, the corners of our mouth, Katie, and you at home, curve down when we're sad, and we're not seeing this here. We've seen these crocodile tears before with other cases. There was a man named Neil Entwistle. He was here from the UK. He killed his wife and his young daughter, and same thing in a courtroom back in the day on Court TV. We analyzed this fake sadness. We've seen this as well with a staged murder, Dalia DiPolito. I don't know if people remember that back in the day. She hired an undercover cop to kill her husband. They pretended he was dead when he wasn't, and when she first found out he was dead, she had the same fake tears here. So this you'll often see with fake sadness, people being exasperated, like that. Ears, nose, and throat doctor, ENT, they're all connected. So when someone is sad, the rolling of emotion happens like a roll. It's slow. It's not just all of a sudden I'm sad and then it disappears. Right. So fake sadness, will often see people look down like that. Now, let me play devil's advocate. Authentic sadness, we look down too. Most people look downright. So I like to say, when you think I'm downright angry, I'm downright disappointed. So you can remember when someone's eyes go downright, you're reading someone else's movement, not from our perspective. Because us watching, someone's right is different, right? My right side is their left side. So we're looking downright. So if I'm here talking to you, Katie, and you ask me an emotional question, and I take a second and I go, that makes sense. We have sighing happening when we're sad. And again, these inner eyebrows pulled together and up. Let's imagine if like you had a little fishing line right here. It's hard to fake. I'm sure the actor Jim Carrey could do it. It's really hard to just fake it. And that's why sadness, when it is fake, we can spot it. And for the viewer at home right now, all you have to do is watch it and feel. See, we have mirror neurons. So when someone is scared, we feel scared. That's why in great movies with great actors, when they're sad, we're sad. But when you watch fake crying, something doesn't happen inside of you. You're like, I'm just not feeling it. And that's the difference between a great actor and a fake actor, a bad actor like we see Brendan doing here. Yeah. I believe this is fake sadness. Okay. And you're not feeling it. Marion Jones lied. I don't know if you remember her, but she was a track star. She lied about taking steroids. And she had this big, huge radio interview and TV interview, fake crying, and no one bought it. Again, watch someone in their emotional state. If you're not feeling it, we have mirror neurons, which means you yawn, I yawn. Right. We are human beings, we are connected. So when we're just not feeling overwhelming sadness, then it's probably fake. Which it is here.
That's so interesting, and it's impressive that you nailed down so quickly the belief that it was fake. There was not a moment of hesitation for you.
No, because that's not authentic sadness. When you see it, your heart, it's like, oh my God, this man's wife died. She was killed, and you just feel the anguish. You feel the sadness, right? And you're not feeling it right out of the gate. So as soon as that clip came on, not seeing the inner eyebrows pulled together and up, that anguish, and the face being, I mean, I can fake sadness better than him. By the way, there was another guy out of Chicago that staged that fake hate crime. I don't know if you remember him, Jussie Smollett. And he staged this fake hate crime, fake cried also. on camera, and no one was buying it. You know, so you just trust your own gut. You know, we have nerves in our stomachs, that's why we say trust your gut, that are communicating with our brain. And here's the deal. Body language shows up before thought. So if we can begin to learn how to decode body language, you know how someone feels before their brain knows how they feel. But he's coming in being prepared to fake cry. His brain is involved first, and then the body language. So it comes across as incongruent. It's not that slow roll that I was saying should be happening here.
Well, let me ask you this. I know you have a law enforcement background as well. You know, I'm sure there was a conversation, I've spoken with our legal experts all week about the conversation that likely happened between defense attorney John Carroll and Brendan Banfield. Do you think it was part of the plan, like you should cry? Does this look like a staged cry at this moment to kind of get the attention of the jurors?
I doubt that a lawyer was coaching him to fake cry. That would surprise me if someone's saying fake cry. I think maybe they might say, be in your emotions, or sit with it, or, you know, break eye contact, maybe something like that. I can't see a lawyer really saying like fake cry, but maybe, you know, give less eye contact, sit with your emotions a little bit. And he just fails at it. He just fails at it. And you look at it and you go, this is not a broken man. This is someone faking. Even the way he's touching his face, Katie, you can feel that it's so mechanical.
You mentioned his chin before the break, and you mentioned how he was leaning on it.
Yes.
Talk more about that.
Well, I like to say, so our brain is where, when we're very stressed, we'll start to touch our face. They're called pacifiers or self-touch gestures. So if I said, who's on the phone, who's on the phone, who's on the phone, who's on the phone? This person stresses me out the most, right? Because who's on the phone, it's like, I don't want to deal with this person. So what happens is, when we are stressed, we have an increase in these face touches and pacifier moves on our body and our face. The face ones are high stress. Here what we're seeing is these fake touches to throw us off his track. They're mechanical. Earlier, when I was talking about the clip from today, while he's live in the courtroom, he started chin grabbing. And I like to say, when we grab our chin, we're about to win. If you are in a meeting, or if you're in sales or business, and you notice you start to get nervous and you're touching your throat or rubbing your neck, a great 7-second quick fix is stop rubbing your neck and grab your chin. Look how intelligent I look, right? Now it looks like I'm going to law school. Now I'm the lawyer, right here. So when we grab our chin, it sends the message that I have calm thinking pose. I'm thinking, I'm processing. Now, could he be coached on this? 100%.
Well, we also know he is a former IRS agent. Is that something you would learn?
Oh, 100%. He already knows about body language. The IRS, when you're being trained, any of the federal law enforcement, you're either training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, FLETC, over in Glencoe, Georgia, where I taught and trained, or you're over here in Virginia at Quantico. I think the IRS trains at Quantico, but there are nonverbal classes that they take. But here's the deal. People always say, Janine, but when you teach people how to spot someone is lying, aren't you teaching them how to be a better liar? The opposite happens. So the more you know how to tell if someone's lying, the worse liar you become, because now he's thinking, oh, I've got to touch myself, because people under high stress touch their face. And now that's where that roboticness comes in.
Overcompensating.
He's overcompensating because he knows. By the way, we saw this too with what's his name? He murdered his pregnant wife and her unborn son, Connor, Scott Peterson. So Scott Peterson, he said, but he was a smart master manipulator. When he was asked, tell me about Lacey Peterson, when you last saw her, the ums disappeared. She was wrapping Christmas presents in the living room. All of a sudden, his ums disappear. When detecting deception, we're looking for a change in someone's baseline. So someone like Scott Peterson, similar to what we have here with Brendan, smart enough to know the everyday person thinks that liars The everyday person thinks that when someone is under distress, we touch our faces. And so it comes off as robotic. We're looking for the anomaly. And we have it right out of the gate. And I know that your viewers are smart enough to feel immediately, I'm not buying it.
We've seen a lot of the comments from people on YouTube and, you know, just texting in that they're not buying it. But, you know, we always want to play devil's advocate. Maybe he is crying. Everyone grieves differently. You know, who knows?
Correct. That's correct. That's great. And I love that you said that. Yes.
Yeah. And I think I've learned that through this process of seeing so many people at the worst moment of their lives. People do grieve differently. Some people start laughing. So it's interesting, though, to hear about the different tells, especially the face touching. Let's transition to Juliana. You know, we've seen her quite a bit up there. Maybe we will see Brendan Banfield today, or maybe that'll be a few days from from now, but you know, I'm sure we'll chat with you more once we see Brendan and the way he talks to the jurors. But let's get to Juliana. When she was testifying, there's a part of her testimony where she's talking about the moments after she fired the shots at Joseph Ryan. If we could take a listen to that, I'd love to get your thoughts on that after.
Yeah.
What did he look like when he saw Brendan?
Shocked.
After Brendan shot Joe, did anyone say anything?
If anyone said anything?
Yeah, did anyone say anything in the room at that point?
Yeah, because Brendan ran to Christine. She was still on the floor, and I think that point she had seen me, and she said she had asked her what to do to Brendan. I think regarding to that he shot Joe, and she said my name. She told me Juliana, call 911.
All right, Janine, just quickly, your initial thoughts after watching and hearing that.
The big thing that's popping out for me here, Katie, and you at home, are these tongue protrusions that we see. When someone sticks out their tongue, it can mean a bunch of different things. It can mean I just got away with something. It can mean this is easier than I thought it might be, because we see her tongue come out when she talks about her plea agreement that she gets. Hey, I don't believe that I should get off because I shot someone. It's for something else. And then we have that tongue protrusion that comes out. So it could also be that was risky. And so I want you to think, and I know this is overly simplistic, and I got slammed for this once on CNN with Anderson Cooper, which is when someone sticks out their tongue, it's like a little kid that goes, na, 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 you know, and they would see that. It's like, I'm getting away with something here. And so we see a lot of tongue protrusions with the au pair, Juliana here, and it's not planned. This is usually where there's a spike in stress and anxiety. I don't think she consciously is aware that her tongue is coming out, but
Just
it's
a
happening.
natural reaction.
Yes, and it's happening many, many, many times here. And so when there's a spike in stress and anxiety, you'll see that, or when someone is holding something back, or they think they got away with something. So they'll all of a sudden. And the next time we put in a tongue protrusion, sometimes you might be watching a court case at home and the tongue, while someone is thinking, sticks out like this, right? They'll go.
Yeah.
If someone is thinking and sticking out their tongue, that is deep concentration. So I want you to imagine we're threading a needle right now, right? So we have the eye of the needle, Katie, and I'm trying to get that thread through. You'll see someone stick their tongue out as they're doing that. Deep concentration, that deep focus. When you see that, when someone is listening and the tongue protrusion is happening and it's sitting there, you have to stop and say, does it make sense that the person would have to do a deep focus right here? Like if I said, what color is your blazer?
Right.
Do you have to have deep focus, right? Do you have kids? Yes or no, right? Ask me, do I have 5 daughters? No.
Right.
Why do I have deep concentration? So when we see Juliana, if we see Brendan on the stage today, or on the stand today on the stage, you can tell I'm a keynote speaker, I always think in the stage. But if we see him on the stand, we're gonna look for those deep concentration tongue protrusions, which is, does it make sense that there's deep thought here? Juliana's body language is very interesting, not just here with her tongue sticking out, but other footage that we've seen along the way. When our hands get involved, maybe we'll see some stuff here, some footage. When our hands hold to ourselves, I'm holding something back. When I reveal my hands here, it's, hey, I'm telling you the truth. So I am looking for these hand gestures coming out. I'm not seeing it on the stand. Granted, we're only seeing from this part up.
Right.
But we are certainly seeing some of these tongue protrusions.
Yeah, and you mentioned the hands, and you know, this conversation that you just watched, that was when she was being questioned by the prosecutor. Somebody she probably felt a little safer with than when she was being questioned by the defense. I would love if we could go back a little bit and show you some of the body camera footage. I know we were watching that. I'd love to get your thoughts on the body footage, if we could play it, but also hear your thoughts as it's playing. I think that would be great. Are we able to do that?
People upstairs. I can mark her if you want. Thank you. I'm sorry. What's going on this morning?
I was going out with the ball.
It's okay. Take a breath. It's okay. Take a minute, okay?
We need some water.
You want to sit down somewhere? No?
I just need some water. I'm sorry, English is not my first language.
Oh, you're fine.
I was going out with the ball to the zoo. Laura is her daughter.
Okay, yep, she's sitting over there.
And then I forgot our lunch.
This is performative compassion, what we're seeing here. This is performative. And the reason I say that is even though she's involved in this shooting and prepared this murder with her host dad, Brendan, look at how big her body language is getting. She's doing a half Superman pose or a Superwoman pose, right? We see her right hand go on her hip many times. Her left hand goes up to her forehead. She's taking up space. She is trying to generate some confidence here on what she's going to be saying to the police. And how do I know that? Because when we look at footage, when someone was involved where you're there at a murder scene, you tend to get smaller. You are self-soothing yourself because you're in this shocking moment. But she's taking up big body language. Why? This is performative right here. She has her staged comments of what she wants to give. Look at this big body language here. This is out of sorts for someone that was just involved. Even if you weren't a participant in the murder, if you just were there, this is out of place when we look at footage from other crime scenes. This big body language. By the way, she's also, look at her head is held up. She's not in internal dialogue or emotions. So emotions, we talked about briefly, Katie, a second ago, is downright.
Right.
So where is she going?
She's going up left.
She's going up left. You know what that is? It's called visual recall. So she is visualizing what she said she was going to say happened. So we see this too with Jussie Smollett with his staged hate crime over in Chicago a couple of years ago, because she already has a different visual in her head, remembering not reality. She's not processing downright, which is emotions. She's processing through the story her and her host dad, Brendan, had already concocted prior to this murder. Now she's getting small. Why? Because she just gave a whole bunch of lies to us.
Right.
She's now exhausted, she's depleted, and look at, she's almost in the fetal position.
Right.
This is like you just did something very scary. She should have came in the fetal position, but she comes in big, taking up space. After she says that first initial, here's what I promised I would say, then what happens? Fetal position, really small on the ground, almost like a little kid. Why? Because it wasn't the murder that is making her small. It's the lying about the murder. That's actually the big ask for her right here mentally is, okay, I got out the most important stuff. Now I'm going to get small. Does this make sense?
Yeah, no, it
So it's
definitely
out
does.
of alignment here. We should see smallness when it begins. Like, oh my gosh. Like, think about a Far Side cartoon, right? We become a smaller target. We don't walk around saying, hey, look at me. Look at me. That was her generating confidence to say what she promised she would say. It's out of sync when we see crime scenes like this.
Okay, Janine, I do see that we are getting some questions, so I'd love to ask you some of those if you're ready for it. And again, if you have questions at home, you can text 202-895-5599, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. The first question we have is, does she, as in you, believe the au pair is as naive and innocent as she has tried to pretend?
No. I mean, come on, she's a grown-up adult. She's traveled from another country. English is a second language. Do I think she's naive? Absolutely not. She's not. She was responsible for a little baby, a little child. So, and by the way, do I think just because someone's not naive, do I think that means they're intelligent? No. I mean, she was posting pictures with her host dad in the bathtub, you know, and then putting an emoji over his face. I mean, this is not someone who is showing high emotional intelligence. By the way, anyone who says, okay, yeah, so the only solution is we have to kill her because you'll have to pay child support and you won't have custody. I mean, this is someone who is not exhibiting high emotional intelligence or high IQ in general. I mean, get divorced, let the chips fall where they may. I mean, murder is a big deal.
Yes.
This is a big deal. So do I think she's naive? No. Do I think that she should be held responsible for her behavior? Yes. And according to the court, you know, once she's finished with doing what she's doing here, she'll probably be back on her merry way and living her own life. Like other people that have gotten away with murder that I won't mention some names, but we've seen people. I do not think she's naive.
Do you think the prosecution was trying to present her that way? I don't know if you saw photos of her before, but she had this long blonde hair. The photos they shared were red lipstick, all done up, tight clothing, but now we're seeing her with this brown hair. She's got the thick glasses on, no makeup. When we do see her face, there's clearly no makeup. What do you think is happening there?
Well, this happens across the board, right? So we saw this with Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias slaughtered her boyfriend, Travis Alexander, stabbed him many times, shot him. We saw this with Casey Anthony. And quite frankly, we've seen it with non-murderers. When Paris Hilton got out of jail, you may remember, Paris Hilton came out and she was holding her hands like this when she exited jail, like she's like a princess from another land, you know. Without a doubt, the defendants and the people that are on the stand, they are being coached. Their body language matters, their hairstyle matters, their outfits that they're wearing.
Clothing color.
It all matters.
Yeah.
Clothing color 100% matters. It impacts the jury, it impacts the judge, it impacts us, the viewers, as we're watching people at home, whether we give them credibility or not. So without a doubt, going to that natural color, not having the lipstick, not having cleavage out, it's setting up this young woman who came from another country to help, you know. I'm not buying it, and clearly your viewers and your writers,
they're asking about it.
They're probably not buying it either, especially when you see that change. This is what I was saying, that I think the word manipulative is really important here, is that be careful of us being manipulated by the optics. And here's the deal, you know, we are manipulated by optics. My son's going to Japan this year, August to August, for his junior year of college, and I found something fascinating about Japan. If you're marketing, if you have a picture of ice cream and the ice cream is this big, when you open it up, it has to be the exact same size, and that doesn't happen here in the United States of America. So we change our color, we change our advertising. All this is visual marketing to manipulate us at home, to think this is just an innocent person that got fallen into this web of an investigator that works for a federal agency in the government. I don't think that's what happened here. It was not a spontaneous thing that happened.
Yeah, you're not buying it for a second. All right, I do want to play you one more soundbite from when she is being questioned by the prosecution, and she's talking about why she told police what she did in that body camera footage that we just watched. If we could take a listen to that.
What I told the detectives that day, it was the version Brendan had told me. If I was ever to talk to a lawyer, or this is ever going to happen, like this is what happened. The version I told the detectives that day, and that I eventually also told his lawyer the same version.
Okay, so what do you think of this when she's explaining all this?
Well, we see the tongue protrusions that we talked about quite a bit already, and we see her lips disappear. What I say is, I like cheeky expressions, Katie. When we don't like what we see or hear, our lips disappear. So if you and I were talking, you go, Janine, I'd love to have you back, and I go, that would be great. And
so
my
you're
lips
saying
disappear.
no.
Well, it doesn't mean that it's no, but it means there's a spike in stress here. Maybe that we're supposed to have a big storm tonight. Are we getting a foot here in Fairfax County area? Are we going to get 2 feet? So my lips disappearing means there's something I'm withholding from you. It's like you opened a file cabinet and you opened a file that says top secret. So emotional control. So lip roll equals emotional control is what Dr. David Matsumoto says. So I say when we don't like what we see or hear, our lips disappear. So we have that right there at the end of what she was saying, along with those lip protrusions. Now what's very interesting here, which I don't think she was probably coached on, I think she did it naturally, is at the end of this comment, she did a head tilt. And when we tilt our head, this is I'm innocent. This is very childlike. This is I'm paying attention here. This is like, please don't hurt me. I'm protecting my neck. So we saw this with when Barack Obama was running for president for the first time. He was being asked by Bill O'Reilly different questions. Do you think we're in a war right now with Iraq? If we are, what will you do if you become president? People who watched the interview said Bill O'Reilly was easy on Barack Obama. But people who listened in their radio said, Bill O'Reilly let Obama have it. Why? Because in the interview, Bill O'Reilly had his head tilted. Do you think we're in a war right now? If we are in a war, what will you do if you become president? And it looked like he was throwing a softball. But if you heard it, it was strong. So why do I share that with you? This head tilt at the very end that you just saw at home, that is like, see, I am an innocent person. I am naive. And I think that she probably didn't do it intentionally, but in her brain, she's like, I'm just a victim here. I'm just a victim here. And it comes across as childlike.
All right, well, let's switch over to what the defense and her reaction to some of the defense line of questioning. I think we're both going to see the same on this, that she has a different personality up on the stand there. If we could take a listen to when she's specifically being asked by the defense and reading some of the letters about the Netflix deal that she was trying to negotiate. I'd love you to listen and react to that.
Just give the details as to why you think you deserve something.
In my point of view, it's always been most about my family and what I've put them through, what they've been going through since my arrest and all this had happened, what they've been struggling with. And so my whole point was about helping them, because that was something that when I was working before. And if they can have something to help them, I want them to have it.
Okay. But you're saying we, which includes you. Is that right? And
Well, yeah.
You deserve something. What does that mean?
Take literally the word we, yeah. That's me.
So what does that mean, you deserve something?
Judge, I'm going to object. It's been asked. She just answered it, and she answered it very well. Overruled. Can you ask?
So I'd love your reaction here, but then I do have a follow-up clip where this sort of continues that I'd love you to look at as well. Do you want to react to that one first?
Yeah, briefly. Well, of course, we see the tongue protrusions coming out again, and then we see this face touch happening once there's a little pause, like objection, and I believe that she was probably dying to scratch her face during that time. I have no doubt in my mind that she's been coached, watch your face touching in general, because when people are being deceptive, they'll often touch their face, especially their noses. Okay. This sounds crazy, but in our nose, we have something called erectile tissue, and it's very similar to the other erectile tissue, which means when it gets overly stimulated, it gets itchy, it engorges with blood. And so when people begin to lie, especially on the stand, they'll try their best to hold back, and then all of a sudden you'll get these nose itches. You'll see this in sports, Katie. A baseball player, right, or a team will go into a bar after a game and they're all scratching their noses. Why? Because the adrenaline is pumping, the nose is getting engorged, so that face touch right at the end with there was a little bit of a pause, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay. Do want to play you another clip if we can. This is about the Netflix conversation that she was having with some of the Netflix producers. If we could take a listen to that.
I had a video call with the producer who works with Netflix, and I wanted to make a movie or documentary about my case, and he explained in terms of compensation, money, etc. Things that Josh had denied, saying that don't do that, right? Anyway, he wants to finalize the contract already, so when I live here, we can have the interview and everything else. But they want to be exclusive, so I can talk only to them. It's worth it. They want to pay because they want to talk to you too in interviews, and you share photos, videos, facts from when I was a child, adolescence, etc. Things for them to add to the movie. So they're thinking about $10,000, which would be around $55,000 in our money. Helps and it's good, but I want to negotiate. I want more than this, because if I sign the contract, I end up losing other opportunities to make more money if I talk to other producers, etc. Right? We have to think. I know I can make even more than $25,000. It would already be more than $100,000 in our money, right? Think about our future. What do we want to do?
She's obviously reading, and you know, the last one you heard was when the defense was sort of questioning her, why is it you think you deserve this? And you saw part of that clip. There was a little bit more to it where he keeps going back and forth with her, but just, you know, we saw it earlier. You saw the part where he said, why do you think you deserve that? Yes. You shot someone, and she said, she pauses, and that's what stood out to me when she took that long pause and she just stared at him. What do you think is happening there?
Well, when we pause, we're trying to gather our thoughts and what we're going to say next. I think that sometimes when we watch footage, there was a TV show I used to watch called House. In House, he was a doctor, and he'd put all the, you know, her foot is bleeding, her head hurts, and he'd write all the symptoms. And sometimes the missing link is the thing that is not on the board. And so when we watch the footage here of the au pair, Juliana, I think the missing piece that's not on the board is emotions. Where are her emotions, right? Where is the sadness? calmness? Where's the processing? Where are the deep sighs? Where are those downright looks where it's like, how did I get myself involved in this? I mean, not only that she was participating in it, but now she's involved in it still here, and she got caught. If we look at her eyebrows, okay, you have curved eyebrows. Okay, there's something called physiognomy. Physiognomy is about the shape of our face, our nose, our jaw. So you have curved eyebrows. People with curved eyebrows like you, Katie, are people who think, when I'm sharing information, how does this impact the people around me? This information I'm giving you, how can this impact my team, my family, my boyfriend, the people around me, my dog? How does this affect the people around me? We see with Juliana, she has straight eyebrows on both her right and left side of her face. Our left side is, imagine your wedding ring here, is your personal side of your face. Your right side is your business side. So you could have a different eyebrow on each one. You don't, you have curved. So both at work, you care. And by the way, you were here with another on-air host and small talking about her daughter, and I already witnessed this with you. I also have curved eyebrows. Straight eyebrow people, you can even see them above Juliana's glasses. They want to get straight to the point. Facts, figures, what do I need to know? It makes sense that she could get pulled into this situation. Okay, how are we going to kill him? How are we going to do it? How are we going to do that? What are we going to say? Facts and figures, instead of how does this impact the mother of this little girl that I've been watching? How does this impact my future? How does this impact the family, the people who are watching? We don't see emotions. Now, I'm not saying people with straight eyebrows don't have any emotions, but I'm saying when they receive information, they process through facts, figures, get to the point. If I was selling to someone in sales with straight eyebrows, I'm going to say, here's the price, here's when you can get it, here's the deliverable date. This woman is not showing not only emotions, she's not showing us how this impacts her life and the people around her. It's missing. It's missing. She's just simply reading statements. Even reading a statement, I could read a statement, I could read a poem and get choked up at the end of a poem.
Yeah, and this is a statement with a lot of information in it, a lot of information that's crucial to this case. Do have another viewer question for you. They wanted to know, what did you think of the au pair's body language when she was being questioned by the defense lawyer? You kind of answered that already, but anything to add on that?
Well, I do find it is interesting to me that we're not seeing hand gestures in the courtroom, and this is why it's interesting, because when we saw that undercover footage of the footage on the police camera, right, the body camera in the driveway, what did we see? We saw a very dynamic woman, right? We saw hands on her head, hands on her hip in the half Superman pose, right, talking a lot with her hands. When our palms face ourselves, this is where the lies are. I'm withholding information. A lot of liars will tell the truth, and when they're telling the truth, they're doing this. It's smoke screening. And I was here, and he had a knife in his hand. Okay, when someone shows us their palms, this is where the truth is. When the palms come in, these are where the lies are. So pay attention. I was on a show once called The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch, and he told me 3 stories. One was a lie, 2 were the truth. The 2 truthful ones, blah, 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 people who are late and people who are cheap drive me nuts. And the first time I lived away from home was sleepaway camp. And the nicest thing my father ever said to me is, I remind him of his father. I said, that's the lie. And that was the only tell. And he said, how did you know that? I go, this is what I do, Donnie. So paying attention, because when people lie, this is what's important for us to remember, Katie, and you at home. It doesn't mean everything they're saying is a lie. They'll stack the deck. Oftentimes liars will stack the deck up front. We even heard it with Brendan when he called 911. This is my house. My name is Brendan. My name is Brendan. This is my house. I live here. They'll stack the deck up front with things that are truthful before they tell the lie. And here's what's important. A truthful statement has the pre-story. But guess what? 50 to 60% of the trauma of the incident should be the story. So 50 to 60%, the killing, the shooting, and most liars forget the 10% afterwards. So we want a little setup, 50 to 60% the actual incident. So if we look at all the sentences, even at a 911 call, and you add up the amount of words, very easily, do the math, figure out how many words was the beginning, the smoke screen up front, the truthful things always tend to come up front. Now the actual incident, my wife is dead, my wife has been shot, this man has been shot. Yeah, if that is shorter than the intro, you have a disconnect here. It's likely there's some deception happening here. And then what is the after story? So there's a lot happening here verbally and non-verbally, and I'm thrilled to be able to share this with people, because you can take it from this case to your everyday life. And I think the biggest thing is ask lots of questions. Ask lots of questions. When a hotspot doesn't mean someone's lying, but it definitely means they're holding something back. It's asking those additional questions.
I do have one more clip that I want to play for you, because I think this is where I really started to see her completely change. She gets incredibly frustrated. I would love to play that clip for you when she's talking to the defense attorney and she says, with all due respect, and that's when things kind of change. So let's take a listen.
Sir, with all due respect here, I said those things are all very familiar words we used with all the people we communicated. So if you want me to be specific, again, I might say it's me, or I might say it's Brendan, and if I'm not sure, what am I doing? I'm guessing, and I'm not doing this.
So you're not going to answer my questions about specific pieces of evidence that I'm showing you?
Objection, she answered, objection asked and answered, objection argumentative.
I think she says she's not going to do this.
If you want to approach this.
This is a hotspot in the detecting deception world, and here's why. We're assuming that it's respectful every step of the way. So like if you went through customs from Canada to the United States and I said, what are you coming into the United States for? You go, I'm going to my sister's wedding. Great. And do you have anything in the trunk of your car? No, ma'am. Why did you all of a sudden, ma'am, me at that particular part and not in the beginning? So when someone gets overly respectful, sir, with all due respect here, this is where we should be on high alert, because I'm assuming, it's like when someone says, hey, to tell you the truth, well, I'm assuming that everything you're telling me is truthful. And now all of a sudden so is what you said up to now not truthful, or now are you overcompensating? Truthful people convey, Katie, and liars try to convince. So this is a hot spot here. And quite frankly, I found her to be a little smug and arrogant in this particular clip. She doesn't come across as likable, and you can feel that little bit of a snarkiness there, that bite, and I think that overrides this I'm an innocent, naive person when you hear that. With all due respect, I want to listen, if someone I was dating talked to me this way, I would not be happy. So it's saying the word respect, but it's actually disrespectful the way she's saying it. Did you get that?
Definitely. And you know, at various points when we were watching these different clips, at one point she's wearing her glasses, at one point she's not. She had her glasses on the entire time the prosecution was asking her questions. But as we started to see her get frustrated with the defense's line of questioning, and keep in mind, she was up on the stand for hours. He had her up there for a while. He was asking a lot of the same questions in different ways, so he was trying to clearly get under her skin. But we see her take her glasses off and just look at him and stare at him. What is that all about? Why would somebody remove their glasses if they had them on the whole time? I guess two questions for you. Why would someone wear glasses? You know, we don't know her eye vision situation, but is there a connection there to body language?
Well, it's very interesting because, and I don't know the story behind her glasses, but I once dated a guy that his whole shtick was wearing glasses, right? In every picture, every video, you'd see this guy in these glasses, these circle black glasses. And I was shocked when I started dating him because he left them behind once at a hotel. And he's like, oh, it's not a big deal. They're from the Dollar Tree store. I go, what do you mean? And they were readers from the Dollar Tree store. But he would wear them every time he'd be in a video, he'd be in a podcast. He's not reading anything, but he was reading them. So glasses tend to make us look more intelligent. And so some people use it as part of their shtick. So maybe in that moment where she took the glasses off, she's like, now I'm looking at who you really are. And maybe it was just instinctual and she didn't even realize that she did it. Maybe it's, hey, I want you to take me seriously here. Maybe she was just like, lets her guard down in that moment. Here's the thing about body language. We never know what the catalyst is. We can notice the behavior. We can say there's definitely a change in behavior, which is suspicious. That's a hot spot. Anytime someone's behavior suddenly changes, it's a hot spot. It says, I need to pay attention here. So if I'd seen that, I would rewind. And I like to watch the video without sound first and say something weird just happened here. Rewind what was happening, what was being said in that moment. And it could be her way of trying to intimidate somebody. But it's interesting because it makes me wonder, is it a costume? Are the glasses a costume to make her look intelligent?
Right. And we're actually playing that clip again. I would love to get your take on it as we watch it, but then also your reaction to Brendan's reaction to her.
Okay.
So you see she's fidgeting with her glasses there.
Yeah.
And you know, your reaction to watching all of this. And then you'll see Brendan in a minute as it zooms in. So see this moment here where we're gonna get a little closer to Brendan and we see his body language change a little bit. Just your thoughts on his, that part. What are your thoughts on that?
All right, so he's actually first touching and rubbing his chin, but now he's covering his whole entire mouth here, which is when people cover their mouth, it's I'm keeping my mouth shut here. Look at that. I mean, put your hand up like that and try it out. Literally put your hand over your mouth and feel what that feels like, and you can feel I'm withholding my information. Now he's closing his eyes, looking down. This is emotion. So he's processing through emotions and he's thinking. What's really interesting, a second ago when we replayed it, thanks for replaying it, Katie and the producers here, is that in that moment, she said, I'm not answering it. Her chin went up. When someone's chin suddenly goes up, it's like I'm looking down my nose at you. We don't want to be in a courtroom when you're talking to an attorney with your chin up like this. It's again a sign of arrogance here. Right. So she comes across as arrogant. I'm not going to answer that, and her chin goes up. If you are interacting with someone and their chin goes up, it's as if they're looking down their nose at you.
All right, I'd like to actually, if we can, go to some video we have of Juliana crying in the courtroom at various points we saw. And I'm curious to see if you also find these to be not authentic, as we saw you found with Brendan. Are we able to show that clip and we can kind of talk about it? There you go.
Oh, she's biting her lip right here.
Yeah. So this is just video clips of her as she's being questioned.
Okay, so this is, look at, three things just happened. She bit her lip, then she pushed her tongue inside the bottom of her lip, and now her hand is covering her mouth right here. Do you feel this? Try those things out at home. Now, like she's doing this with her face. Look, her tongue was inside her lips again. She's holding her breath right there. That was holding her breath. These are all pacifying movements. This means a spike in stress and anxiety. This does not mean sadness. We don't see sadness, Katie, because there's no inner eyebrows pulling together or not. So what people might be saying is this sadness, the answer is no. Let me think about it. No, this is high stress, biting her lip, high-level pacifiers. The tongue inside your mouth, pushing on your lip or your cheek, high stress, massive stress, biting her lip right here.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. This is the kid that just got caught with their hand in the cookie jar saying, Mom, it wasn't me, it was this one. These are high stress moments. They're high level pacifiers. And we saw, I don't even know, about 12 to 16 of them in less than a 60-minute clip. This says to me, her brain is really hyperactive right now. And what's still missing? No emotions. She's not going down right. She's not getting emotional here. This was not sadness. This is high stress right in these moments.
I am curious what you think, because right there towards the end, we did see her kind of go like that a little bit. Did you notice that at all?
I missed it. I must have been taking
a
quick note.
For you? I'd love to get just another reaction to it. I'm just curious if that was a moment of sadness, because, you know, we're watching this and we're thinking, oh, she's crying. We see her wipe her tear, or what we thought were tears, away.
Yeah. So what you're seeing there in that part that you just clipped, had them play over, is you're seeing dimpling in her chin. So dimpling in the chin, and this is why I think we're looking at it and saying sadness definitely happens with sadness. So the dimpling in the chin, we see dimpling in the chin right here as if someone is holding back sadness. So is it a spike in stress and maybe a little sadness sneaking out here? Yes, but here's the deal. This is not dramatic sadness. This is not a woman I cared about was just murdered and I was in the home when this was happening. This is not that. How do I know that? Because the inner eyebrows, the forehead is not getting involved. This small sadness is what's called a subtle expression of sadness or leakage, emotional leakage. It could indicate, how did I get myself into this situation? It could indicate, I can't wait till this is over. We don't know what the catalyst is. But this is not authentic sadness. The quickest of all emotions, Katie and you at home, is surprise. Surprise happens in less than 2 seconds. So if I throw you a surprise party, or my boyfriend Craig, I say, surprise party, his birthday's in September, and he comes in, he's like,
that's the initial.
Someone told him there was a surprise party, because surprise only happens for 2 seconds. And surprise is always a catalyst to another emotion. I come at you with a knife, surprise to fear. A surprise party, surprise to happiness or sadness. But sadness sticks around. Sadness isn't a 2-second emotion. Sadness slowly erupts. Our inner eyebrows pull together and it stays there in anguish. Our face might have that jaw dimpling and then the forehead is engaged. I'm faking the engagement, even with my forehead. We have no forehead activity. And I highly doubt this young woman is getting Botox, right? So this is incongruent with someone who is devastated about the killing. Maybe a little bit of sadness you're picking up on the dimpling of the chin about being in this situation.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, you know, we know sadness, we don't know what the sadness is. She has
Right.
been up on the stand and being interrogated. Is it sadness because she's uncomfortable?
Yes.
That kind of sadness. So I'm so intrigued by all of this. I would like to play you one more clip if we can. It's when the prosecution steps up. It is a defense clip, but it's from when the prosecutor steps up to ask that final question. And this is after the defense has been, you know, peppering her with question after question. You then see the prosecutor come back up to try to ease her back down. Are we able to play that clip for you?
Everything that you talked to me about yesterday,
Yes.
was that all the truth? Is that the truth?
It is.
Judge, I don't have any further questions.
All right.
Okay, so that was after the defense had just been question after question for hours all day.
I don't think you need me on this. What do you think?
It's not about what I think.
Well, we see that
Yeah.
tongue protrusion. And not only do we see the tongue protrusion, Katie, and you at home, but she went to the corner of her mouth, right? Which is deep thought, because it's like, what am I gonna say here? And then she said, yes, it is. So at first we didn't hear her, so she had to repeat it. When people are being deceptive, the voice often goes down. 85% of the time when someone's lying, you'll have a tone of change, either up or down. Majority though, is that tone of voice going down. Granted, English is a second language, but when she answered, it wasn't a strong yes, so we had to hear, excuse me, what was that? And then she said yes again. So that lower tone of the pitch, the tongue protrusion, again, indicates to me there's more to the story here.
Now, you know, we're talking about how she is from Brazil as well. Are there any cultural things that could be happening here that we're not picking up on because of cultural differences?
Absolutely. I don't see some here. There's a great book out there if you are interested in a cultural exchanges and differences. It's called Kiss, Bow, or Hold Hands, and it's written by a couple different people. They update it every couple of years, and it's the difference both someone from China who's 24 versus someone from China who's 84. So with regard to Brazil, by the way, I've had au pairs. I've had 22 au pairs.
Wow.
My oldest son is 20, so I've had au pairs since my oldest was 1 year old. I have two littles, 11 and 12, Charlie and Jack. So I've had two Brazilian au pairs. So I've had au pairs from Brazil living in my house. There are definitely cultural differences from the United States versus in Brazil. With regard to testimony here and body language, there is no cultural shift that we would see with what we're noticing here today. There's nothing out of the norm, other than that change, because a lot of Brazilians use this big body language, which is what we saw with the camera on the body cam. I keep forgetting that word. Thank you. Thank God you're here, Katie.
No.
We saw that. That's very indicative of someone from Brazil. We would see this big body language. No hand gestures in the courtroom says to me, why is she not showing us her baseline? What is happening here? Where are the hands disappearing? But even the face is revealing, like that chin up is saying more than she might think. People think it's all about the hands, but the face says more than you might think too.
Now, I want to talk to you about another clip that we unfortunately don't have today, but I'm going to try to describe it to you, and I think you've gotten a pretty good idea of what Brendan's facial expressions are. But there's a moment after Juliana testifies, and she's walking out of the courtroom, and we see him follow her with his eyes. Is it common, from what you've witnessed in the past, for the person who's on trial to watch the person? What is the message that's being sent by watching someone so intently as they walk out?
Well, again, we don't know what the catalyst is for that, but it's interesting because in this same courtroom with the Johnny Depp trial, Johnny Depp never watched Amber Heard coming and going. He had no use for her. She was dead to him. But Amber Heard watched Johnny Depp. I was in the courtroom a couple times. She watched him like a hawk when he would come in, when he would leave, and she would keep an eye on Johnny all the time. So if you think about it in that regard, maybe he still has a crush on her. Maybe he is saying, I can't believe you betrayed me like this. I did this for you. I did this to be with you.
Yeah, and it actually looks like he's walking back into the courtroom right now. I would love to just hear your thoughts as he's entering the courtroom. Are we able to show this while we still talk about it, just to explain kind of the conversation that's likely happening there? It does look like they're about to start court back up, so we'll be going back into that if they cut back to him. Otherwise, thank you so much, Janine Driver, for being with us. And if people have questions, they can still text them in, and we'll get them to her, 202-895-5599. But for now,